All right, today's Thursday, March 17th, 2022, and a little project I've been working on here, kind of plugging away at the 60, is these cruiser skirts. So these are 12 by 60 Foxcraft. I have the molding. I have some stars and some ports. I don't have any scuff guards. So these things are new old stock, NOS, Foxcraft. And even though they're NOS, they do have some shelf wear and some pits and stuff, so I'm taking them down to bare metal. This is about 95% done. It's got a little remnants I'm gonna go over before I epoxy them. But these things are in bare metal pretty much. 80 grit. I use some lacquer thinner. I use 80 grit on a DA. I use some OSFO to neutralize a little bit of rust that was around the holes. And pretty much that's it. Did a little bit of electric sanding, but mainly 80 grit with the DA, and then lacquer thinner to thin it out and soften it up a little bit. So today's project is gonna knock this one out here. And surprisingly, even though these things are new old stock, they still need some body work. I guess just from the stamping or whatever, but there's a dent here and a dent here, which correlates with the way the latch is mounted on the back side. Dent around this hole right here. So I'm gonna be epoxying these things tomorrow. That's the plan, and then do whatever body work is needed and seal them up till they're ready for the car, or till the car is ready for them. So let me get this other skirt knocked out here. I'll bring you guys back once I make some progress on that, and then we'll go from there. All right, here we are. It's Friday, March 18th, 2022. I got these skirts in bare metal. Unfortunately, yesterday when I was doing this, had a lot going on and it started raining. So I didn't get to record the process, but just to recap, it was 80 grit on a DA, and then lacquer thinner with the red Scotch-Brite, and lacquer thinner with just an old rag to wipe up the mess. Probably spent about a quart of lacquer thinner to remove all this primer. I did top and bottom, or I'm sorry, inside and out. The back side, not as much, about 80%. On the top side, it got about 95%. There's a little bit of peppering and stuff, but I think the epoxy will lock it down. I'm not too concerned about that. It's really minor. This one came out pretty nice. So like I said, just to recap, these are new old stock, but they are going to need a little bit of body work. A couple dings right there from the latch assembly. Same thing on the other side. So the process is, I'm going to use this SPI waterborne wax and grease. I'm going to do that right now. They recommend you let it sit for an hour before spraying, so I'm going to go ahead and do that and follow up with some activate or some SPI epoxy primer. I have black, white, and gray. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I know I want gray, but I might mix a black and white. I'm going to probably mix up about 10 ounces, spray inside and out, and I'm just going to spray until there's no more. So it'll probably end up getting 3 coats on this thing, about 15 minutes in between coats. It's about 75 degrees. So let me get these things wiped down and bring you back. All right, here we are an hour later. I got these things hung up. I got the epoxy mixed. I mixed 3 ounces of white, 3 ounces of black, and 6 ounces of activator to get a gray. So I got 12 ounces, which should be enough for 3 coats. I'm going to be spraying it with a DeVilbiss 1.4 SGK. It's from overseas. It's my go-to epoxy gun. I'm going to spray it at about 20 psi. So like I say previously, just to recap, I DA'd these things, cleaned them up, lacquer thinner, soap and water, and then today the waterborne wax and grease remover. Wiped that down, waited an hour for everything to evaporate. And so these things are bare metal, new old stock, 12 by 60 Foxcraft cruiser skirts. This is going to be the first step. So what I'm planning to do is epoxy this stuff and then do a little whatever body work is needed on Sunday, and then epoxy them again and lock them down and put them away for storage till we're ready. So back sides, like I say, I gave it about 90% effort. This one down here had some pitting. Unfortunately, I hit it with some OSFO and 36 grit and 80 grit and did the best I could to get the heaviest stuff off. I'm not too concerned about it with the backside. I'm going to treat it pretty much like underneath the car. It's going to get tinted Raptor liner to match underneath the car. So epoxy, 3 or 4 coats plus the Raptor. I really doubt that stuff is going to come back in my lifetime. So I'm not too worried about it, but I did DA them. So they're prepped. Mainly is we want the outside to look good. So that being said, let me get to spraying. All right, here we are, 2 coats. I'm a little rusty on my estimation of materials. So 12 ounces got 2 coats, and I really wanted to get at least 3 coats. So I mixed up on the 12 it's inducing right now. So I'm gonna end up getting 4 coats out of it. 4 coats ought to lock it down really good. Stuff kind of filled in on the little pitted area for 2 coats. We're gonna get 2 more. But as you can see, it's a little wavy. And like I say, these things are essentially new. So just in the stamping process, this one's a lot better. But it's got a couple little dingers. So it's gonna need a bodywork process. So I'll let these sit another 20, 30 minutes before I come back for the 3rd coat. It's getting there. Bring you guys back. So here we are, real quick. This is 4 coats later. Plenty of protection from any elements. This stuff is basically like sprayable glue. It locks everything down. It's waterproof. There's plenty of videos out there. There's one that's in particular called the torture test, which anybody interested in this product should watch that video. Maybe I can put a link in it. So that's all for today on the skirts. As you can see, it's got a nice dinger right there. It's got some ripples along the molding holes, which I might pop them on to see what covers. But I'm gonna let this sit until Sunday, which is about 48 hours, and then block it down a little bit and put a little bit of Rage filler, block that down, and then more epoxy to lock it in, and then basically they'll sit until the car gets up to speed with the skirts. So hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll be bringing you back on Sunday. All right, today's Sunday, March 20th, 2022, and I'm gonna put a couple hours in on these skirts. They've been in here for 2 days. I had my space heater on, so it's been a toasty in the 80s. Today's a great day. It's 25% humidity, so I'll be doing a little body work on these things. As you can see, got a little dinger there. I'm gonna block these down, see what we got, but it's just gonna take a little bit of filler. And then I plan to get them in more epoxy and then put them up. So that's today's project. I'm thinking maybe 2 or 3 hours. Bring you guys back once we get started. All right, so here we are. Got one block down, took about 10 minutes. I'm using 180 on a Durablock. So you can see what we're left with. A little low, a couple lows right here. But overall, not bad. I'm just gonna smear some Rage over this stuff and block it down. And then as far as all these areas right here, this stuff is still well within the recoat window of 7 days, I believe. So there's no need to scuff that. So smear some Rage, block that down, and it's ready for probably 2 more coats, maybe 3 of epoxy. And then at that point, I don't think there's a need for any 2K primer. I would put these up and leave them in epoxy, and when the time comes, scuff them down, seal them with more epoxy, and go straight to base coat. I'm not going to 2K primer these things. So on the back side, I'm not going to do anything with them. That's good enough. So all we're doing is top sides. So I'm thinking, 12 ounces when the time comes, maybe 15. So I'm going to smear some Rage, bring you guys back. All right, so here we are about an hour later, hour and a half or so. So I was able to actually hammer out several of the low spots around the trim holes. So I opted for that method first, and everything blocked down pretty good. Had a little funky dip there, so I had to fill that. I did hammer it the best I could. I'm not that good with the hammer and dolly, so I do need filler, but it's pretty thin. And same around here, a couple trim holes. Hammered that out, hammered that one out, and hammered that one out. So now I'm just going to clean up. Made a little mess in here. I'm going to clean up, mix up my epoxy. We're going to go 2 or 3 coats, same thing, gray, and that'll be a wrap. Bring you guys back once we get spraying. right, so here we are 3 coats later. I was trying to get 4 out of it, but I ran out, so I don't feel like mixing any more today. but it didn't quite fill the 80 grit scratches as much as I would like. So I think what I'm going to do is come back in a couple days and maybe scuff it with 400 or so, and then 2 more quick coats. I'm not going to put any 2K primer on these things. It doesn't need it. So they're definitely straighter than they were. So overall, that's a wrap for this. I actually forgot to knock the filler out of one of those holes, so I need to do that too. But they're well protected now from any elements. So I'm just gonna let these things cure for a couple days. Like I say, come back, knock them down at 400 and 2 more quick coats, and then we're done. So if you guys enjoyed this process, stay tuned for more work. All right, here we are. It's Friday, April 22nd, 2022. It's been a while since I did any work on these cruiser skirts, excuse me. If I remember right, where we left off was I got these things, I did some hammer work and some body work and left them in, I believe, 80 grit or 180, I think 80, and in 3 coats of epoxy. And I know I had said I wasn't going to use any 2K high build, but I think to get these things where I want them, it needs it. As you can see, it still has some pretty deep scratches. These things have been inside the house, so probably could block this epoxy down and shoot more epoxy, and it would probably fill in those scratches, but I want these things really straight. So what I plan to do today is I'm gonna block them with 180 using an acrylic block and just a regular hand block. 180 grit. Block these things down, and then I'm thinking I'm gonna get them in 3 coats of the SPI high build 2K primer. I have a gallon of that, and then let them sit probably for a week and probably knock that down, and then maybe get them in epoxy and put them back in the house. Still quite a ways away on the car. The car's actually just been sitting. Hadn't really even touched it. Been working on the frame, as you guys see. So it's kind of a little bonus video here. So enough talking. Let me get these things blocked down in 180 and bring you back. All right, so I got one of them already sanded in 180. I just want to do a quick little video. I got the camera on a tripod. It's the first time doing that. Just going to show you how good these acrylic blocks are. In any brand, really, not this particular brand, but an acrylic block versus the Durablock. So as you've seen previously, the skirt looked pretty good, pretty straight. But once we sand it with this acrylic block, it's gonna tell you the truth. So I'm gonna do just a little sanding right here, and you'll see right off the bat. So as you can see, that's what, 2 minutes worth of sanding, and here's what we have. Let me see if I could change this setting here. Look straight until you put the block on it, and this is that SPI epoxy. It's really sandable. So I'm just going to continue this process here. It's kind of awkward. I forgot how awkward these things are to work on. But yeah, that's why I say I think it needs a 2K. So I got the other one all the way knocked down between the two blocks that I showed, and then just by hand around the lip and around the bottom. Didn't break through anywhere, so that's good. Actually, I think I broke through a little bit right there, but that's nothing. So let me continue this process, and I'll bring you guys back once we get ready to spray. All right, so here we are 2 days later. It's Sunday, and these things have been curing for about 48 hours. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to guide coat them. I got some 3M dry guide coat, 400 grit, and 2 blocks. So my plan is, at this point I don't think it needs acrylic block anymore because I already did that stage in the 180, so the panel should be pretty flat. So what I'm going to do is just guide coat them, block them down, and then I'm going to get them in another coat of unreduced epoxy, and then they'll probably sit. I don't know how windy. It's really windy, so I don't know how it's going to record. But yeah, that's the plan. They'll sit in the epoxy, which is water resistant, or waterproof, I should say, versus this 2K stuff is porous and moisture can get through to it. So I don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to go ahead and get them in epoxy, and then they'll sit for probably up to a year or so. And then when the time comes for paint, a quick 600 grit wet, 1 sealer coat of epoxy, and we're ready for color. So basically just prepping these things in preparation for paint, trying to keep chipping away at the car. So let me put you guys on the tripod and I'll show you how I do this. 11 minutes later. For the most part, the guide coat all came off. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up. So they're pretty flat. They're flat enough to my liking. Much better than they were. Are they perfect? No. They're pretty close. So I need to drill out the trim hole that goes right there. I covered that up. So I'm going to set this one to the side. We'll get started on the other one, and then I'll bring you guys back once I get ready to spray the epoxy. All right, so here we are. I got them sanded, washed with Dawn dish soap and water, dried them off real good, let them sit in the sun about 20 minutes. Then I hung them up. I wiped them down with the water-based wax and grease remover. I'm gonna wait about 15 more minutes. It's pretty warm in here. It's 88 degrees, 57% humidity. I'm gonna go ahead and spray a reduced coat. I was thinking after I had said that earlier, I don't really think it needs a full strength because these things are gonna be kept indoors and just to minimize the buildup. So I mixed up some and I reduced it about 15% or so, 10-15%, just to get a better spray out. So that's the plan. I'm gonna get these sprayed, just the top sides, not the back. The back has never been messed with from the original epoxy, so they're fine like that. Get these things sprayed, then put them up, and then whenever it comes time to paint, all I got to do is wet sand them 600, spray a sealer to promote adhesion, and then go straight to color. So it's been quite a journey on these things, you guys saw. Definitely new old stock still needs work, but we got it. So I'll bring you guys back once we start spraying. So here we are, 2 coats later of the reduced epoxy, and I reduced it so it's basically like spraying base coat. So I got it in 2 coats. It's protected now. It's got a nice sheen on it. You can see starting to get somewhere with the reflection. So, hope you guys enjoyed this little restoration segment here on these new old stock Foxcraft cruiser skirts, 12x60, going on to 60 convertible. That's in pieces right now, but I do have the hockey stick trim. It's also NOS, got to polish that up. I have some stars and exhaust ports, so I'm going to fully dress these things up. But like I say, these things are going to sit for, ain't no telling. I mean, I still got a lot of work on the frame. Bodywork on the car. There's plenty of work ahead, but I did want to at least get some progress going and get back to spraying. It's been a while. So, bring you guys back, I guess, once we get these things in color one day. Thanks for watching.